Death Stranding is a good game, and I am unsure how to really talk about it. But I am determined to get my thoughts out there because I think this is a really special game. That and Death Stranding 2 is around the corner, so I wanted to get my thoughts out there before the sequel comes and takes up all of the attention. I have played this game through twice now. Once on PlayStation 4, which I continued to play here and there before upgrading to the PS5 version. Although when I got my new PC, I knew I had to play it on there. So I waited for a good time to play it, and ended up starting it up a month before the scheduled release of the sequel. And I had forgotten how much I loved this game. Now I'm going to split this into a two-part conversation for this video. The first thing I want to talk about is the story, and then the gameplay. I'm not going to go into any major spoilers besides talking about some characters and how unique they are because I believe this is one of those stories that should be experienced. I will also be using some different terminology for those who don't know anything about the game so that they may be able to follow along much easier. So, what is Death Stranding about? Well, that's hard to explain, given that it has quite the detailed and convoluted plot. But coming from Hideo Kojima, one of my personal favorite game developers and creator of Metal Gear and Metal Gear Solid, one of my favorite video game series of all time, that shouldn't be too shocking, as those games also have quite the convoluted plot also. But whereas Metal Gear was about war, honor, and the military-industrial complex, this game is about one thing: connections. Whether that be with a stranger, a friend, or an enemy. And it delves into supernatural territory with that same theme. In this story, we follow a man named Sam, a porter who delivers for people in need after the Death Stranding event leaves the whole world split apart and unable to connect with one another. At the start of the story, Sam really doesn't want much in the way of living. He's perfectly content with delivering packages and making it to the next place to get some shut-eye, until he runs into a woman named Fragile, another special kind of porter that convinces him to help in a bigger way. After their meeting and finishing his delivery at the capital city, he meets up with a company called Bridges, which is run by a great cast of characters that convince him to help bring America back together by connecting the country with a new system called the Chiral Network. A network that leverages energies from the Death Stranding event for use with different things like power, communication, and more. This energy, however, like the world itself now, is connected to the afterlife, and has affected the world in a very big way. Rain, now called timefall, is something to be avoided, as simply touching it ages just about everything forward at a rapid pace, bringing structures, plant life, and wildlife to rot and decay right before your eyes. Nothing is exempt. But that isn't all that follows the rain, as the ghosts from the afterlife, or BTs as they are called in-game, roam the land where the timefall spreads. They are the things that Sam is especially good at dealing with, as he has a condition called dooms, a rare condition that lets him sense the dead's presence, as well as be able to do other things that I will leave for surprise. Normal folks without dooms, however, need a way to be able to detect BTs to stay safe for themselves. This is where BBs, or bridge babies, come in. Being a unique kind of life form, BBs reside in the space between life and death. So when used in conjunction with a piece of gear called the Odra deck, people can be warned of a BT's presence. Through a very cool and tragic series of events, Sam teams up with his own BB unit in order to fulfill his mission: connect the country once again, one way station, city, distribution center, or whatever else at a time. That's the basic outline of the story. Now, it might seem strange to say that that's about only 20% of the story and what it's about, but at its core, it's about people, and it's brought home by some truly well-written and unique characters. For example, Hartman, a man who is purposefully killed by being put into cardiac arrest so that he may have time to search the now much closer afterlife for his family. But after a few minutes, he is resuscitated to continue living and assisting Bridges' work. There is also Deadman, a man without a soul, and Fragile, who we spoke of earlier, who has the power to teleport great distances and has a very eventful past with Bridges. You will meet many unique characters throughout this game, and each one is impeccably voiced and brought to life by many talented actors like Mads Mikkelsen, Layla Dew, and Lindsay Wagner. Other voice talents like Troy Baker also bring a lot to this game. Now that you know what this is about, though, for the most part, how do I feel about the story? Is that the reason people should show up? And in short, yes. I love this story. I love the emotion, the ever changing stakes, and the adventure of it all, and also how well it has been brought to the screen with some truly fantastic visuals. And as I said before, the characters are unforgettable, at least to me, and certain situations they are put in are truly fantastical, and you will end up in some crazy places and even different time periods for different reasons, as this story really loves to get wild. And honestly, the story is even worth just going through just to see the relationship between Sam and his BB evolve over time, as well as the characters around him. It's a truly well written character arc, and each character around Sam also has their own character arc through the story. There are moments that'll make you laugh, there are moments that'll make you cry, and there are moments that will just kind of leave you awestruck because they are so imaginative in some scenes and so visually kind of arresting because you've never seen visuals kind of like this before. And that's kind of what people love Hideo Kojima for, is his way to really think outside the box. And that really, really stands out with this title. The gameplay in Death Stranding is nothing short of unique. You may have heard that this is a walking simulator, and you know what? You're absolutely right, and whoever told you is absolutely right. But even with that being the case, there isn't any mindless wandering like one would assume. From the first moment of gameplay, you can feel the emphasis on finding an effective path through this world, as walking over certain areas, like ones that are rocky, slick, inclined, or what have you, can result in Sam tripping over himself and damaging his cargo. But if you hold one of the bottom triggers, which correspond to the use of his hands, you can balance yourself back out. And cargo itself can vastly affect your movement and balance in a big way as well. In fact, there is an entire menu that you will be using quite a lot to organize your cargo and manually move things around to find the optimal way to travel. Sam not only carries cargo on his back, but attached to his suit as well. Smaller pieces of cargo can be attached to his left and right arms and legs to alleviate the weight on his back. This is because if you overload his backpack with too much, you immediately see and feel that it's nearly impossible to stay upright without having Sam hold his backpack straps. But put too much gear on one side that is heavier than the other, and you will follow the same result and lean that direction. And if the aforementioned timefall that affects the land is falling, it'll also destroy your cargo. So putting gear on your extremities may result in some damage to your cargo, even to the effect that if walking through water, your gear and legs fall under, it'll cause more damage to those specific packages that are submerged. And the same applies to snowy areas, which also affect your gear. You can even wear down the soles of your shoes to the point where Sam will have to either procure a new pair of shoes from the fabrication unit or use a special plant that can be used as an impromptu sandal to protect his feet and keep his stamina up, which is needed to keep balance while traversing difficult terrain like steep inclines. This is the kind of physics-based movement that makes Death Stranding so unique to play, and why, even through long treks across these vast areas, you will never really have much downtime where nothing's happening. And that's all with just your basic movement. As you go throughout the story, you will be able to fabricate more and more pieces of gear to help Sam on his travels, such as floating carriers you can offload cargo onto, container repair spray that you could use to, repair your containers, and different kinds of exoskeletons that affect your movement or strength so that you may move faster or carry more cargo. My personal favorite being the speed legs that you can use to run crazy fast and jump over crazy distances, albeit with some risk. Or even the exoskeleton that helps you not slip over watery surfaces, help you walk through deep snow, or even kick into high gear when you're on a steep incline to consume its own battery level rather than your stamina, eliminating some risk involved with climbing. And on that front, there are also some things like climbing ropes to descend or ascend mountains, ladders for either climbing or crossing small areas like rivers or chasms. There are also vehicles that you can use to transport loads or just make a faster trip, or even gear to defend yourself against an entity that poses a threat. Which brings us to another part of travel: the enemies. Not everyone in Death Stranding is on your side, even though you are working with most people. You will frequently encounter enemies called mules that will come try and steal your cargo and knock you out, forcing you to kick yourself into high gear, and turns the game into more of a Metal Gear Solid than I think people were really ready for. You can sneak your way into these enemy encampments at any time, not just when you have your gear stolen, to steal their cargo from under their nose and even straight up bring a fight to their doorstep and leave the entire camp incapacitated. It is important to always keep in mind, though, that killing other people in the world of Death Stranding has its own, let's say, catastrophic consequences as well. So simply going in and killing the opposition is never really the answer you want. Sure, you can, but more is required of you in the way of disposing of the bodies when doing so, which you really won't want to do as it's a very lengthy process. The biggest threat to Sam on his travel, though, are the BTs, the spirits of the dead that can attack Sam at his most vulnerable. For a big part of the game, there is no real way to defend yourself against the BTs until later. So stealth and paying very close attention to your Odra deck and BB, detecting the approximate distance of them in order to sneak through unharmed, is the name of the game. But if you fail and are grabbed by an enemy BT, you are in for some of the best parts of the game, to be quite honest. When this happens, the whole area becomes a tar-ridden battlefield that transcends time and space. Giant bosses appear in these segments to keep you from your goal, as well as swallowing up any nearby vehicles or structures in the area that might have been a help. And in their place, buildings, cars, and other BTs populate the area, and it's up to you if you want or can stand and fight. Or even running to the boundary to escape their clutches is an option, which sends them back to where they came from and returns the area to its formal state. These are some of the coolest parts of Death Stranding, and once you get into the later game, you are given plenty of tools to deal with these threats and even to hunt them down in order to make the trip through an area a lot safer for yourself and other porters. This also is where the most unique thing in the game comes in: other players. Death Stranding is a multiplayer game, but not in a traditional sense. Everyone connected in the areas under the chiral network can affect each other and even help each other in tangible ways, even though there is an actual co-op in the game. For example, if Sam loses a piece of gear or cargo and does not have the means to get it back for a job completion, or maybe you just decide to offload and leave some piece of gear behind because you didn't have the room to carry it, other players can come across your lost cargo and finish your transport themselves. It's even possible to entrust pieces of cargo to other players if you don't think it's right for your route or it's going to be a detriment to you in any way. And it's even in your best interest to help other players, given the vast amount of experience and reputation gains you are awarded for your efforts. And that applies to vehicles as well, as abandoned vehicles can be found by other players and used, and if they or you are so inclined, you can bring them back to the garage to be available again. And maybe most importantly, there is also a system for creating structures across the land if you have a chiral network up and running. Players can build ramps, shelters from timefall or to sleep, bridges, cargo launchers, zip lines, and a bunch of other things to help themselves and others through this journey. And underpinning all of it is a like system that is used to give likes to other players and you and their structures. This operates like a pseudo reputation system to show how helpful certain things have been to other players and signaling that you may want to take advantage of their inclusion. To say the least, there is a lot going on in the world of Death Stranding, and when it all works together in the way that it does, it makes for an experience that can be both about the vibes while on delivery, or about the tension while barely making it out of an area alive, or without destroying your cargo. as you'll be battling the elements as much as the enemies, butchering your grades and reputation as a porter if you fail to get your packages to your destination without being too damaged or too slow. Now, given all that is going on, there are some things I do have some complaints about, such as Sam's movement feeling a little too snappy in small areas and lacking a certain weight just on his own, and trying to navigate smaller spaces can be a little difficult with this snappy movement, as well as the menu system being a bit cumbersome, which is somewhat alleviated by the inclusion of an auto sort button. But the story is why you're here, even though the gameplay is very great and will probably keep you around for a while after the story is over. The story is just that good. It can be a bit self indulgent, though, and a little over confusing if you aren't fully invested in paying attention to everything in detail, including reading emails and interviews from people you have helped along the way. Overall, I love this game and think it's an experience that people should at least take a chance on. If it isn't for you, that's totally okay. There are plenty of things in this game that cause friction that your average player isn't exactly ready for, and that will definitely turn many people away. But for those of us that really love this game and what it's doing, it's an all-timer for sure. And I promise the story will leave a lasting effect and will be something that you'll reference or even just keep in mind for a long time to come. But its ability to keep a good sense of humor and stay unique the whole time is truly a remarkable feat in itself. And a lot of that signature Kojima weirdness is definitely here also. Man, I can't wait for Death Stranding 2, and here soon it will be out and you'll be hearing from me once again. But for now, thank you so much for coming by and listening to me talk about one of my favorite games. If you would like to stick around and hear more from me, or just watch myself and my buddies getting into shenanigans on various different games, subscribe. And if you enjoyed the video, give it a like. It really helps get it out to different people who may not otherwise see it on their recommended. Have a great day, my friends. I will talk to you later. Peace.